They say silence is golden, but in old age silence often feels like a punishment. The house is quiet, too quiet. The voices that once filled the rooms, children laughing, friends chatting, a partner humming a song, are now echoes, gone. And what remains? A ticking clock, a creaky chair, the cold side of a bed that no one warms anymore. This is the loneliness of old age. It's not just being alone. It's the weight of memories, the absence of routine connection, and the haunting realization that you can't go back. But what if I told you, this pain, though real, doesn't have to consume you, that there's a way to understand, accept, and even rise above it? Not with empty promises, but with truth. And for that, we turn to the man who understood human suffering like few others, Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." Strange, isn't it? Especially when we're taught that happiness is in togetherness, in family, in relationships. But for Schopenhauer, solitude wasn't a curse, it was clarity. He believed that the crowd distracts us from the truth, from ourselves. That much of the pain of loneliness is not from being alone, but from resisting it. You see, when you're young, solitude is rare. Life is full of noise, school, work, raising children, surviving. You barely have time to hear your own thoughts. But as you age, life quiets down. And that quiet can be deafening. But here's the insight. It's not the silence that hurts, it's what we tell ourselves in the silence. I'm forgotten. I'm useless. I'm alone because I failed. These thoughts, these are the true tormentors, not the empty chair, not the unanswered phone, but the inner voice that interprets it all as rejection. That, Schopenhauer would say, is where suffering begins. But it's also where peace can begin. Because what if we changed the narrative? What if we saw solitude not as punishment, but as liberation? You are no longer bound by the demands of others. You are no longer acting in roles, parent, spouse, provider, host. Now you are free to be only yourself. And in that self there is still richness, still thought, still dignity. Schopenhauer believed that the deepest thinkers, the most enlightened people, have always found solace in solitude, because it is in solitude that the mind becomes sharp, that you see life for what it truly is, not a race to be surrounded, but a journey to understand. But how do we apply this in practice? Let's begin with something simple but powerful, the idea of voluntary solitude versus imposed solitude. Imposed solitude is what causes pain. It's when we want connection and cannot find it. It's when we reach out and are ignored, when invitations stop coming, when the phone doesn't ring. But voluntary solitude is different. It is a choice, a woe mindset. It is when you stop begging for attention and start enjoying your own. When you say, "Today I will sit with myself," not because no one calls me, but because I choose to explore the silence. This shift is subtle but radical. It transforms the empty room from a cell into a sanctuary. Now, this doesn't mean you must renounce all human contact, not at all. But it means you must reframe the absence of contact. If someone doesn't visit, it doesn't mean you're unloved, it means they are busy. If someone forgets your birthday, it doesn't mean you don't matter, it means they are distracted. Do not make their forgetfulness your identity. That is the trap. Instead, focus on what Schopenhauer called the inner wealth. Unlike material things which fade, inner wealth is the richness of thought, of reflection, of understanding. It grows in solitude. Have you ever sat down and written your story, your truth? Not the version others know, but the one you've lived, the struggles you've endured, the mistakes you've made, the lessons you've paid for with years. This is wisdom. And wisdom is never useless. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you listened to your own mind without distraction, without a screen, without music, just you, your breath, your thoughts? For many, it's been years. And yet, this is where the greatest discoveries happen. In that sacred silence, Schopenhauer believed that most people fear solitude because they fear themselves. In a crowd you can perform. Alone you must face the mirror. But if you dare to look, really look, you may find not a broken old person, but a survivor, a thinker, a soul that has weathered storms and still stands. That is not weakness. That is power. Let me tell you something you may have forgotten. The old are not useless. They are essential. A society without elders is a society without memory, without roots. But here's the catch. Society may not always remember that. So you must. You must hold your value even when others overlook it, especially then. Let's get practical for a moment. What can you do today to reduce the pain of loneliness? First, develop routines. The human brain thrives on rhythm. Wake up at the same time. Make your bed. Drink your tea slowly, like a ritual. These small anchors keep you grounded when the world feels adrift. Second, engage with beauty. Read, paint, walk in the garden. Watch how the light moves across the room. Schopenhauer found immense value in aesthetics, in the ability of beauty to lift the soul beyond suffering. You do not need a companion to admire a sunset. You do not need applause to dance in your living room. Third, serve. Yes, even in old age, especially in old age. Loneliness shrinks when we extend ourselves. Call someone who's also alone. Write a letter. Knit something for someone else. It doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be from the heart. And fourth, study philosophy. Not the dry kind, but the kind that asks the big questions. What is life? Why do we suffer? What makes a life meaningful? These questions will not depress you, they will awaken you, because you are not the only one who has asked them, and you are not the only one who has felt alone in the asking. There's a strange comfort in knowing that even the great philosophers, even the most admired thinkers, face deep loneliness. Schopenhauer spent much of his life misunderstood. Ignored, he was considered bitter, but his insights are timeless because he spoke from the wound, not the pedestal. And that's what I want you to remember. You are not broken because you feel lonely. You are human. And in that humanity there is immense strength. The key is not to escape loneliness, but to understand it, to walk through it with your eyes open, to see its shape, its patterns, and then gently to take its hand and say, "You are not my enemy, you are my teacher." In the next part of this journey, we'll dive deeper into how memory can either heal or haunt, how to turn painful recollections into wisdom, and how to build a relationship with yourself so deep that loneliness becomes not an enemy, but a companion. Until then, sit quietly, breathe, and remember, your value is not determined by the noise around you, but by the stillness within. What hurts the most in old age is not the absence of people, but the presence of memories. The mind becomes a museum, each hallway filled with moments we wish we could revisit. A voice we'll never hear again. A touch we still feel on cold nights. Schopenhauer believed memory is both a gift and a curse. It can bring us comfort, or it can chain us to what we've lost. And that's the second key to reducing the pain of loneliness, understanding how to live with memory. When your young memories are fuel, they push you forward. You remember your goals, your reasons, your dreams. But when you grow older, memories often turn into ghosts, not violent but persistent. They whisper, "Remember when you were loved? Remember when you mattered? Remember when the house was full?" And the more we listen, the more the present becomes unbearable in comparison. But Schopenhauer offers a different lens. He believed that memory must be filtered. Like a light through stained glass, it can illuminate or burn. You must choose which memories you feed. Painful ones come uninvited. Joyful ones you must seek. But they are there. They live in the same place. Think of your mind like a garden. Over the years, many seeds have been planted, some of sorrow, some of joy. Which ones are you watering? Which ones are you letting grow wild? You may not control which memories arise, but you can control which ones you entertain. That is your power. Let's get personal. Think of someone you lost, someone who meant the world to you. Now ask yourself, are you honoring their memory by suffering endlessly? Or are you dishonoring their love by letting it destroy you? Schopenhauer would argue, to truly honor love is to carry its lessons forward, not its grief. Let their memory make you kinder, wiser, not smaller. Another truth, Loneliness often grows from comparison. You see couples walking together, you see families celebrating, you hear laughter from the neighbors, and you think, why not me? Why don't they call me? But this is the illusion. What we see is the surface. What we imagine is often far from truth. Many surrounded by people are lonelier than you because they lack depth, they lack reflection. They do not understand solitude. They run from it. You do not need to run. You need to sit with it, to ask it questions. What is this loneliness trying to tell me? What part of me is aching? Is it the desire for love or the fear of being forgotten? And then, gently, begin the practice of self-dialogue. Yes, talk to yourself, out loud if you must. You will be shocked at the wisdom that rises from within when you treat yourself like someone worth listening to. Schopenhauer believed the greatest minds learned not just from books, but from inner life. They studied themselves like scholars. So I ask you, what if you became your own subject, your own project? Not to fix, but to understand. Here's a practical exercise. Write a letter. Not to someone else, but to yourself, to the version of you that's young, or to the one who suffered a great loss, or to the one who feels invisible now. Tell them what you wish someone told you, and then read it back. Not as the writer, but as the receiver. You may cry, you may laugh, but something inside you will move. And movement is life. Now let's speak of friendship. Many elders say, I've outlived my friends, and yes, it is a unique grief, to lose those who shared your youth, your secrets, your context. But Schopenhauer reminds us, the best friendships are not frequent but true. You do not need many, sometimes you only need one. And if that one is gone, then be that one for someone else. There is always someone lonelier than you. Look around. There is an old woman down the hall who hasn't spoken to anyone in days. A widower 2 streets away who eats alone every night. A neighbor whose smile is a mask. Reach out, not with pity, but with presence. Not to fix them, but to remind them. They exist, because the greatest gift you can give in old age is attention. Not advice, not solutions. Just the quiet miracle of sitting with someone and saying, I see you, I hear you, I remember you. And what about God? What about the spiritual loneliness, the feeling of being abandoned not just by people, but by life itself? Schopenhauer was skeptical of religion, but not of wonder. He believed the universe held patterns, that suffering was part of a larger rhythm, that even in despair there was order. You don't have to believe in heaven to believe in meaning. You just have to notice the way the sun hits your hand in the morning, the way a flower grows in broken soil, the way you are still breathing, even after everything. This is grace. And grace is not loud, it doesn't shout, it waits quietly until you're ready to notice it. Another way to reduce loneliness is through creation. Create something, anything, a story, a song, a recipe, a memory box. Creation is how you remind the world and yourself that you still have power, that you can still bring something new into existence. You do not need an audience. Create for your own soul. Let it be your whisper back to the silence. And finally, let us talk about time. When you're young, time races. When you're old, it lingers. Minutes stretch, days blur, and this slow drip of time can feel like torture. But here's the secret. Slow time is sacred time. It is time to savor, to reflect, to notice. Youth wastes time because it thinks it has plenty. Age cherishes time because it knows its value. So cherish it. Wake up with intention. Dress well, not for others, but for yourself. Eat slowly. Read slowly. Speak gently. Let every hour be a poem. Let every breath be a victory. You have lived decades, loved, lost, learned. You are not invisible, you are a library. And even if no one walks through your doors, you are still filled with wisdom. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to transform solitude into strength, how to cultivate joy without depending on others, and how to turn old age from a prison into a palace of wisdom. Until then, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember, loneliness is not the end of life. Sometimes it's the beginning of understanding. Solitude. For some, it's a punishment, for others, a practice. But what if solitude could become your strength? What if it could become your teacher, your mirror, your sanctuary? This is the transformation that Schopenhauer offers, not by denying the pain of being alone, but by embracing it with new eyes. In this part of the journey, we will walk deeper into the forest of solitude and emerge not with bitterness but with clarity. Let us begin with a paradox. You are never truly alone if you are fully present with yourself. The problem is, most people are strangers to themselves. They fill their lives with people, with distractions, with movement, so they don't have to ask the hard questions. What do I believe? What do I regret? What still brings me wonder? But now in old age, with the distractions gone, you finally have time to meet yourself, and that is not a loss. That is a rare opportunity. Schopenhauer believed that true happiness is negative happiness, not the presence of pleasure but the absence of pain. And many elders seek joy in all the wrong places. They want excitement, company, stimulation. But what if peace is quieter than that? What if it's not in the party, but in the stillness after everyone leaves? Not in the embrace of others, but in the embrace of your own soul? You don't need noise to feel alive. You need meaning, and meaning comes from attention. Try this. The next time you feel the sting of loneliness, don't reach for a distraction. Don't turn on the TV, don't scroll, don't escape. Instead, sit, breathe, listen. Notice your body, your breath, your thoughts. You may be surprised by how much beauty and pain live together inside you. Let them speak. Let them rise and fall like waves. This is presence. And presence dissolves loneliness, not by filling the room but by filling you. Schopenhauer often warned against chasing shallow pleasures. He called them chimeras, illusions that promise happiness but leave you emptier than before. In Sitiki, old age, these chimeras can take many forms, trying to relive youth, trying to force relationships, trying to buy meaning. But the wise soul lets go, not because it gives up, but because it grows up. Letting go is not defeat. It is maturity. Let go of the need to be needed by others. Let go of the bitterness that they don't visit. Let go of the fantasy that things will return to how they were. And then, in that sacred emptiness, plant something new, a habit, a hobby, a thought. Solitude is not a desert. It's fertile ground, but only if you sow it. Now let's talk about identity. Many elders feel lost because their roles have ended. No longer a worker, no longer a caregiver, no longer the one who's called for advice. And so they ask, who am I now? But this is not a crisis, it's a calling. You are not your past roles. You are not your usefulness to others. You are consciousness. And that consciousness, Schopenhauer says, is most pure when it's not performing. So stop performing. You do not need to prove your value. You do not need to impress. You are not on stage anymore. You are backstage now, where truth lives. Ask yourself, what did I always want to explore but never had time? What idea always fascinated me? What part of myself did I ignore to please others? Now is the time. Read that book, write that journal, learn that subject. Not to become someone new, but to return to someone true. One of Schopenhauer's greatest insights was that suffering is the default of life, not an exception. He didn't mean this as pessimism. He meant it as freedom. Because once you accept that life contains suffering, you stop resenting it. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, how can I respond? You can respond with grace, with humor, with insight. You can become the wise one in the room, even if the room is empty. And remember, solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude is chosen, loneliness is felt. But over time, solitude can transform loneliness. How? By making you whole. Imagine this, a day where you do not speak to anyone, but you still smile, you still create, you still reflect. That is not sadness, that is self-possession. Schopenhauer believed that the highest state is not happiness, but serenity, a calmness that doesn't depend on weather, on people, on circumstance. And this serenity grows in solitude like a pearl in silence. You can cultivate this dark. Start your morning with intention. Before you speak, sit. Before you move, breathe. Let the day unfold like a slow melody, not rushed, not forced, but aware. Take walks, not to reach a destination, but to feel the rhythm of your body. Notice how the world moves, even when you don't. The breeze, the leaves, the clouds, this is the symphony that plays for you every day. You just have to listen. Eat alone, but eat with gratitude. Not with a sense of emptiness, but with reverence. This food, this body, this moment, they are not meaningless. They are sacred. And when the evening comes, light a candle. Not because anyone will see it, but because you will. Make rituals for yourself, not for others, not for God, but for the part of you that still wants to live beautifully. This is the art of solitude. And now let's talk about the fear beneath loneliness. The fear of death. Schopenhauer didn't fear death. He saw it as a return, not an end. He believed that clinging to life too tightly brings more suffering than letting go. And in old age we must learn this, to loosen the grip, to stop fearing the unknown, to trust that the soul knows what to do, even when the body forgets. You are not dying. You are ripening. You are becoming more yourself. And as you age, you may find that your circle shrinks, that people forget, that the world seems to speed past you. But Schopenhauer would remind you, it's not the speed of the world that matters. It's the stillness of your mind. Be still, be watchful, be kind to yourself. Because the final lesson is this: the pain of loneliness fades when you become your own companion. When your thoughts comfort you, when your presence feels like home, you do not need to wait for someone to visit you to feel alive. You can visit yourself every day and find that you were never truly alone. In the next part of this journey, we will explore how to find meaning even in the smallest moments, how to endure days that feel heavy, and how to live the final chapter not with regret, but with quiet triumph. Until then, stay with yourself, gently. And remember, solitude is not what isolates you, it is what reveals you, heals you. There are mornings when the world feels distant. You wake up and nothing calls you. No children to dress, no boss waiting, no one expecting your arrival. It's just you, your room, your thoughts, and an ache in your chest that whispers, "Is this all that's left?" But Schopenhauer would say this moment, this stillness is not the end of life. It is life revealed in its rawest, purest form. It is here that you stop being who you were expected to be and begin becoming who you truly are. In our earlier reflections, we spoke of solitude, memory, and the sacredness of inner life. Now we turn to the practical art of meaning. Not the grand kind, not the legacy you leave, but the quiet kind, the meaning that makes today worth waking up for. Old age often brings a crisis of usefulness. The world, obsessed with productivity, forgets the value of stillness. You may hear or feel, "I am no longer needed." But that's a lie told by a society that doesn't understand worth, because your worth is not in what you do. It's in what you are, in your presence, in your perception, in the way you notice what others rush past. Schopenhauer believed that the wise man removes himself from the noise, not because he is antisocial, but because he sees deeper. He knows the party fades, but thought remains, and you now are in the perfect position to see the truth most miss. That joy is not in doing, but in being aware. Let us begin with observation. Watch how the light changes through your window throughout the day. Watch how the birds return to the same branch. Watch how your own breath slows when you stop forcing meaning. This is the essence of life, not action, but attention. Now ask yourself, what small thing today could be sacred? Is it the way your hands feel in warm water as you wash a cup? Is it the memory of a song that plays when no one else is listening? Is it the slow way the tea steam rises, as if time itself is dancing for you? These are not insignificant. They are anchors. They keep you present when the mind drifts into sorrow. And sorrow will come. There will be days when grief sits with you, like an old friend, familiar, unwelcome, but persistent. You will remember the faces of those who are gone. You will long to hear their voices. You will wish for one more conversation, one more touch, and in those moments it is easy to feel abandoned. But Schopenhauer teaches suffering is not the interruption of life, it is life. And to suffer consciously, with dignity, with awareness, is to elevate suffering into meaning. Let your grief be part of your ritual, Light a candle not just for the dead, but for your living memory of them. Speak their name out loud. Say, I remember you, you are with me. And then continue your day, not broken, but accompanied. There is strength in ceremony, even if you are the only one attending. Let's also talk about the heaviness that arrives in the afternoons. When the sun begins to fall and shadows stretch across the floor, this is the loneliest hour for many. The day is not done, but it feels like it should be. And the silence becomes thicker. This is the hour when many elderly feel invisible, forgotten. But here's the truth. You are not invisible. You are just witnessing what most never have time to see. The in-between, the unnoticed, the fading light of a life still burning. Use this time. Don't waste it waiting for someone to call. Create a ritual, a walk, a reading hour, a prayer. Even sitting with a warm blanket and watching the sun go down with gratitude. These acts may seem small, but they are revolutionary. They say, I'm here, I matter. I choose to see beauty even now. Now let's explore relationships, not with others, but with yourself. How do you speak to yourself? With kindness, or with judgment, with patience, or with bitterness? Many elderly carry years of internal abuse. They speak to themselves with the voice of their worst critic. They replay regrets. They scold themselves for things long past. But why? Why wound the one person who has stayed with you through everything? You must become your own ally now. When you feel shame, answer with compassion. When you feel fear, answer with courage. When you feel empty, answer with curiosity. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? And listen. Truly listen. Maybe it's movement. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's silence. Whatever it is, give it to yourself the way you once gave to others. You deserve your own care. Schopenhauer reminds us, the human mind is a mirror. If you hold it steady, it reflects clearly. If you shake, it distorts. Hold your inner mirror with care. Let your thoughts come and go without clinging. Don't wrestle with them. Watch them pass like clouds. They are not you. You are the sky behind them. Now we must speak of legacy. Not the kind, carved into stone, but the legacy of presence. Who have you made feel seen? Who have you listened to? Who have you forgiven? These are the true achievements of life. Not money, not recognition, but impact. Quiet, invisible impact. And even now, you can create it. Call someone. Write someone. Say, I love you, or I forgive you, or I remember when. These words echo, these words stay, and if you feel no one is there to receive them, say them anyway. Speak them into your room, into your journal, into the sky. The act of saying them changes you. And that is enough. Let us return now to Schopenhauer's greatest insight, that happiness comes not from chasing pleasure, but from reducing suffering. So reduce your suffering in small, conscious ways. Eat foods that nourish you, not just your body, but your soul. Arrange your space to reflect who you are, not who you used to be, but who you've become. Surround yourself with objects that hold meaning. A photo, a book, a flower. Let them speak to you and speak back. This is not madness. This is reverence. When you sit in your chair, don't just sit, rest. Let your body feel supported. Let your muscles release. Let your eyes close and say, I am safe, I am enough, I am home. Because you are. And when night comes and you feel the ache return, the ache of absence, of silence, of time, breathe deeply. Place your hand on your heart and say, I am not forgotten. I am the keeper of stories. I am the quiet witness to beauty. I am the last flame still burning in the room, and I will keep burning until I choose to go. In the final part of this journey, we will face the deepest fear, the end. But not with dread, with courage, with philosophy, with the wisdom that says, I have lived, and in living I have become. Until then, hold yourself gently, watch the light, breathe, and know that this solitude you carry is not a burden, but a gift only the wise can open. There comes a moment, quiet and unannounced, when the body grows tired in a different way, not just from walking or lifting or bending, but tired of time, tired of waiting, tired of the cycles. And for many in old age, this is the most sacred and terrifying truth. The end is near. It may not come today or tomorrow, but it is closer than it has ever been. And what do we do with this knowledge? Hide from it? Fear it? Or welcome it with clarity and strength? Schopenhauer did not romanticize death, but he didn't run from it either. He saw it as part of the natural order, a necessary conclusion, not a punishment. And he believed that by accepting the certainty of death, we gain the courage to live, truly live. So let us talk about the end, not with panic, not with sorrow, but with awareness. You are here now reading these words. That means you still have breath. You still have time. You still have the ability to choose how this final chapter will unfold. It may not be filled with noise or crowds or applause, but it can be filled with grace. And grace, Schopenhauer teaches, is the quiet dignity of the soul that understands life. First, understand this. Dying is not failing. Dying is not losing. Dying is not a shame. It is the completion of a cycle. The tree drops its leaves. The candle melts. The tide returns to the sea. And in this rhythm, there is peace. Do not let the world convince you that aging is decline. No, aging is arrival. You are arriving into yourself, into the truth, into the core. And yes, this process strips things away, strength, people, even memory. But what remains is essence. Let us embrace that. Many elders fear being forgotten. They fear their name fading, their voice lost, their impact erased. But remember, you were never just your name. You were never just your body. You were a presence. A moment in someone's life, a lesson, a kindness, a warmth, and those things ripple. You may never see how far, but they ripple. If you ever doubt that, ask yourself, do you remember your grandmother's hands? Do you remember the way someone once looked at you with pride? These echoes stay. You are someone's echo. You are someone's warmth. You are a chapter in someone's life story, and that matters. Now let us talk about preparation, not of the body, but of the soul. How do you prepare for the end with calm? You forgive. You forgive yourself for the things you didn't do, the dreams that died, the words you never said, the chances you missed. You forgive others for hurting you, for leaving you, for not being who you needed them to be. Forgiveness is not a gift you give the past. It's a door you open in the present, so you can walk through freely. Then you reflect. Write down the 3 moments that defined you. They don't have to be dramatic. Maybe it was the way your child looked at you once. Maybe it was a walk you took after someone left you. Maybe it was the moment you decided to go on living when you could have given up. These are your monuments. These are your truths. They deserve to be honored. You do not need a tombstone to leave a mark. Now you release. You release the illusion that you are in control, that you must complete your life, that you must make peace with everyone. You release the need to be ready. No one is ready, but you can be open, open to the mystery, open to the unknown, open to the next breath, and the one after that, until there are no more. And finally, you stay present. You do not live tomorrow. You do not relive yesterday. You live this minute, this bite of food, this sip of water, this glance out the window. That is where life still exists, and in that presence the pain of loneliness begins to dissolve, because the greatest fear of old age is not death. It is isolation, dying unseen, unheard, unloved. But you are not unseen. You are not unheard. You are not unloved. Even if no one knocks on your door today, you are remembered by life itself, by the wind that touches your skin, by the earth that holds your feet, by the sky that opens above you like an old friend. You belong here. Until your final breath, and then you will belong to something greater. Schopenhauer said, "The greatest achievements of the mind are attained in solitude." And what is death, if not the final solitude, the final return, and perhaps the final understanding? So what? Now you live. You wake up tomorrow and wash your face slowly. You speak your name out loud. You walk to the window and greet the light. You eat something warm and call it sacred. You sit with your hands folded and feel the pulse of time moving through you. You live with softness, with patience, with gratitude. You write one last letter. You share one last memory. You leave one last kindness, not because you must, but because you can. And when the time comes, you will not beg to stay. You will smile and say, I was here, I saw, I felt, I understood, and now I rest. Because this is not an ending, it is a return to silence, to peace, to the great stillness behind all things. So breathe deeply. You have done enough. You are enough. And even in this solitude, even in this final hour, you are not alone. You are held. You are remembered. You are free.